Senator, are you in D.C.?
I am not. I am in Houston, Texas.
Well, then you know it's snowing.
I do, and let me tell you, Michael, this morning when Caroline, our eldest, we woke her up about 6 a.m. because she had choir practice, and Caroline's like her daddy. She didn't want to get out of bed, and she didn't want to get out of bed, and she didn't want to get out of bed. And then Heidi whispered in her ear, said, "There's snow on the ground."
Oh, yeah.
And I have never seen my daughter do a vertical leap. She catapulted out of bed and ran in sheer joy.
Oh, yeah.
To the window and outside.
Shrieking.
So, yes, there is snow on the ground in Houston, Texas. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and a merry, merry white Christmas.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Do you have a favorite Christmas song? That's what we've been asking our callers today.
I'd say two, actually. With my girls, I like to sing Rudolph. It's fun to sing Rudolph, and I throw in sort of smart alecky comments after every verse.
You know what? Why don't you and I go ahead and just sing that right now and make some radio history? Go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing about it is you can actually sing,
no, I can't.
and I can't. And you know that because you and I have sat up in your living room late at night mauling country western songs, and I don't think I hit a note the whole night, but fortunately, if anyone minded, they bit their tongue.
I think it would be nice if you just did a little Rudolph for the people.
What I will say is my favorite Christmas song to listen to is "Mary Did You Know." I love that song.
Yeah, give us just a little of that.
No, I really can't sing to save my life. It's a terrible thing.
Senator, with all the people that hate you in Media Manners, all we have to do is package that and send it, and they will have a field day. It would be awesome.
Actually, in Google, there is, in fact, I pointed out something, which is, did you know that the song Amazing Grace and the song To Gilligan's Island are musically interchangeable? You can sing each to the other's tune, and it fits perfectly. And if you Google, there is sadly video of me singing Amazing Grace to the tune of Gilligan's Island. It's quite painful, and it was ill-advised, but it does exist out in the internet ether.
I did not know that. You know, we've had some bands. We close, as you know, we close the Redneck Country Club with Amazing Grace, and we've had some bands do House of the Rising, do Amazing Grace to the tune of the House of the Rising Sun, and it's pretty awesome, actually.
Now, that I haven't heard. I imagine that's very cool. I will confess, as a senior in high school, at Second Baptist High School, several buddies of mine and me, we sang Amazing Grace to the tune of Gilligan's Island over the speakers at Dr. Hodo's house, who was the president of HBU.
Yes, Doug Hodo's dad.
Exactly. And I went to high school with Pat, who was the younger son.
So Doug is older than Pat?
A couple of years.
Okay. I used to be in Sunday school with Doug. Doug was on that, was it 83 or 84 team that had Roger Clemens and Swindell and all those guys at UT, the big national championship team. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, half those guys went to Second Baptist. So.
Well, a good buddy of mine, Johnny Sutton, played on that team.
Oh, yes.
Johnny would occasionally let me wear his College World Series ring, which every time he did, I threatened to pull a Vladimir Putin and steal the ring.
Johnny Sutton's dad was my professional responsibility professor at UT Law School.
Oh, wow.
The great John Sutton. And he, I was 3 hours short, and I had to do a directed study to get the credit, and he did it for me on pro se representation.
So Johnny is a crazy good athlete.
Yeah,
you know, Don Willett, who's getting ready to be confirmed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. Don and Johnny have raced on the beach with Johnny wearing flippers. And Johnny still beat Don even wearing flippers running on the beach.
I'm not, how best to say this, that doesn't shock me because Don's prowess is not in the athletic realm.
I feel confident that the 2018 Olympics will not feature Donnie Ray Willett, nor either you nor I.
Now, what was Johnny's issue? Because I had him on a few years ago, and I had a sympathetic ear for him. He was prosecuting somebody, and everybody was out to get him because
it was an issue about 15 years ago with Border Patrol agents that had a bad shoot, and it got a lot of people worked up.
Yes.
I never knew the exact facts of what went on, but I know Johnny personally. I know he believed what he was doing was right. Whether it was or not, that may be a different story, but I know he certainly believed it was right.
Ramos and whatever. Yes, I remember it now.
Yeah.
It put him in a tough situation. It
did.
was a very, very tough situation. Well, let's talk D.C. for a moment. I know you're very proud, incredibly proud, of a particular provision with regard to the tax reform bill, the 529 amendment.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, sure. A week ago, the Senate finally got its act together, and we passed tax reform, a big tax reform bill. There are a lot of important provisions in that lower taxes for small businesses, for job creators. And one of the big victories we had was an amendment that I introduced. It was the only amendment that passed that actually added something to it. And it was an amendment that takes college 529 savings plans, which, millions of people have. They're very, very popular.
We do. Yeah.
You probably have them for your boys. We've got them for Caroline and Catherine, where you can save. You put in after-tax money, so it's like a Roth IRA, and then all the growth, all the earnings, all the appreciation is tax-free. And so it's a very powerful vehicle to save for college for your kids, and grandparents like to use them as well. Well, the amendment I introduced said we take the existing 529 programs. You can still use them for college, but it expands them so that you can also use them for K through 12 education. You can use them for public school, for private school, for parochial school, for religious school. You can use them for homeschooling, up to $10,000 a year per child. And it ended up past midnight, passing the Senate 50-50, tied vote. And the Vice President, Mike Pence, came down to the floor and cast the tie-breaking vote. So it is in the tax bill, and it is the most consequential federal school choice legislation we've ever seen in the history of the country.
Fantastic. The tax reform bill, I got about a minute before we go to break, but the tax reform bill, where we are now.
I think we're very close. The Senate has passed it. The House has passed it. We're in conference committee. There are differences, but the differences aren't huge. I think we'll resolve the differences, and I believe we'll get this passed before the end of the year. It'll be a big tax cut on job creators, and it'll be a tax cut for Texans across the board, doubling the child tax credit, lowering your rates, simplifying taxes, and hopefully bringing a lot of jobs, raising wages and economic growth. That's the fundamental objective is jobs and economic growth.
Repealing Obama's individual mandate.
Huge. It's in there. It's something I fought tooth and nail for 2 months ago when I started raising the issue that we need to repeal the individual mandate as part of tax reform. Virtually nobody was with me. It was me and a handful of conservatives. And in the 2 months that followed, we made the case internally, we made the case publicly, and we convinced our colleagues, and we carried the conference. Friday night a week ago, 51 Republicans voted to repeal the Obamacare individual mandate, the IRS fine for people who can't afford health insurance. And when this passes, that is gone. It's a big, big victory in this bill.
Senator, thanks for your time. Good work.
Thank you. God bless, and Merry Christmas.